Okay, I want to talk to you briefly about all of the different research that appears in this assignment because there are different types of research. And I want to start with the analytical section. That's the section that folks uploaded last week and I've provided feedback. But I want to clarify a few points there. And the big thing that I want to clarify is that in this analytical section, you need specific research or evidence from your discourse. And when I say specific, I mean specific. In other words, I want to see screenshots of the discourse. I want to see direct quotations from the discourse. I want to see hyperlinks to the website that you're analyzing. And now some students are doing this really well, although a few students are still being rather referential in the work that they're doing. And I don't want just this reference because when you're doing analysis, you need to pinpoint the evidence that you are analyzing. And so here are a couple of examples. We have one student who's doing an analysis of new wave feminists. And so as I work through the paper, I can see that the student brings in screenshots from the website that she's analyzing. And then in the writing, there's analysis of exactly what's happening in the screenshot. As I work through the paper, I see that there are more screenshots, and I also see that there are hyperlinks to specific sections of the website. And so these images are actually being addressed in the paragraph. The analysis is pinpointing certain things that are demonstrated in the images. Other students are doing similar work. We have a student here who's doing the discourse of music merchants, and I can see that each time he makes a point, he provides the hyperlink to the evidence that he's analyzing. And so I can actually see the evidence. And again, sometimes he does it with hyperlinks. There's an image or a screenshot from a YouTube clip that he analyzes. And so all of the research of the discourse is there. Still, other students do it a little differently, but it's just as strong. And so here's one more for you. This student is doing an analysis of a music video. And so as I work through this paper, the student doesn't necessarily give me a YouTube link to the video, although he could. But what he does do is he gives me a very specific description of what's happening in the video, almost a line-by-line description of the video. So he's taken the discourse and he's translated it. It's right there, right in front of me, so that when he does the analysis, all of the analysis that he's doing is connected directly to the description that he's provided. And so that's what we're looking for in that analytical section. Some folks, you've got good ideas, but you're going to have to find examples of the discourse, and you're going to have to rework that analytical section a little bit so that I can see where the specific evidence is. The challenge is if you don't do that, then the paper starts to read like a research paper. And often what happens is you're sharing ideas or patterns that already exist. You're finding them in articles or out there in the world, but these are patterns that people have already developed, and you're merely sharing those patterns with me. What I want to see is the actual specific analysis that you're doing. So you're looking at the evidence and you're unearthing certain patterns. So I hope that that clarifies a little bit. If you have questions, you can always let me know. Now, in section 2, you're really just doing this transition. You can bring in a little bit of research should you wish, and I do that in the example paper I gave you, but it's not absolutely mandatory. When we move to section 3, however, when you start to situate your analysis of the discourse into the larger culture, and you start to think about other discourses that share in some of the values or the narratives that you found in your own, then again, you're going to need some evidence. And again, you're going to need specific evidence of the discourse. And so in the GNC paper that I provide as an example, this is the exact thing that I do. I give you specific evidence from the discourse of GNC, and then later in the paper, I bring in specific evidence from similar discourses that I've found. So discourses that have to do with anti-vaxxing, discourses that have to do with alternative medicine. And so I'm bringing in specific evidence from these discourses in order to draw comparisons. In this final section 2, I'm looking to see that people can also consider bringing in research that's coming from popular sources. And so here I mean things like credible newspapers, credible magazines, .govs, .edus, and I'm asking for this because I'm asking for folks to think about the ideas that folks have shared regarding those specific values and or cultural narratives that exist. So again, in the GNC paper that I provided as an example, I don't just bring in research from similar discourses. I also bring in a couple of articles that I found that talk about the role of science in the culture. And I do that because that sort of information about the role of science fits quite nicely with the value that I see in that paper, in that discourses like GNC's value profits over health and well-being. And so the idea there is that they use that illusion of medical credibility. And so I can make that connection between the illusion of medical credibility and the research that I found about the role of science, or actually the science illiteracy in the culture. And so there you have it. There's definitely lots of stuff coming in from different sources in this paper, but I hope you see that there has to be specific examples of your discourse. There have to be specific examples of similar discourses, and then you're also looking for a little bit of information about those values and cultural narratives that you've unearthed. I hope this helps. Take care.